Chosen ones need the courage to be disliked. Spoken for the gifted, the ghosted, the guarded, and the ones who've already felt this in their spirit before I even said a word. We all know that person, the one who's cool with everybody. You walk through the city with him, and it's all handshakes, laughter, dap-ups. Yo, what's good? People love them, or at least appear to. They're the human group chat, the social butterfly, the peacemaker. But one day, you hear your name come out of someone's mouth. And the source? That friend who's cool with everybody. And you realize something chilling. Being liked by everyone often comes at the expense of integrity. And if you're not careful, it'll come at the expense of you. The dissonance. At first, you brush it off. It's probably just gossip. Maybe they were misquoted. I don't want to be dramatic. But then, you start seeing the patterns. The smile that fades when certain people walk in. The way they never defend you in rooms you're not in. The sudden change in energy when your name carries weight instead of just vibes. They'll act one way with you and a completely different way with people who secretly envy you. You're watching them shift tones, mirror opinions, downplay truths, all for clout that's not even real, all for friendship points in a system that's spiritually bankrupt. And this is the part no one wants to say out loud. People who desperately need to be liked will eventually sacrifice someone to stay in the spotlight. You'll hear it in conversations like, "Yeah, I used to be close with her, but she's kinda changed. He's moving different lately, not sure what he's on. I love them, but something's just off with their vibe these days." And in a society where compliance is mistaken for morality, where keeping the peace is code for keeping your status, people would rather shade you than stand with you. They'll trade truth for traction, trade loyalty for laughs, trade you for nothing. Let's break this down. You've got this friend, maybe from school, maybe from your city, maybe from your early creative years. They're friendly, loud, charismatic. They dap up everybody. They got inside jokes with every circle. And because they're so liked, you let your guard down. You assume they're safe, that they're solid, because how could someone so liked by everyone be fake? But the truth is, the desire to be liked by everyone is one of the most dangerous character flaws a person can have. Because when push comes to shove, they will never choose what's right if it means losing social status. They'll say things like, "I don't want to get involved. I'm just trying to keep the peace. Y'all can deal with that. I'm staying neutral." But neutrality in the face of lies is still betrayal. And eventually, it's your name they'll leave on red when the group starts talking wild. Now here's where it starts hitting different. You're in a room full of people, and suddenly, you feel weird. Something's off. It's not what's being said, it's what's not being said. The way energy shifts, the way eyes avoid you. And that's when it clicks. Someone's been talking, and based on how they're looking at you, they believed it. You walk outside with that friend, and they act like everything's normal, joking, laughing. But inside, you're piecing together the puzzle. You remember the time they didn't correct a lie about you. You remember how they started acting weird after you got that promotion. You remember how quiet they got when people praised you publicly. And then you feel it, the slow, sick sting of spiritual dissonance. They liked the old version of you, the version that was uncertain, insecure, dependent on them. But this new version, the one that's disciplined, focused, ascending, they don't know how to treat you now. So they talk. And let's be honest, we all shift a little depending on the room. You don't speak to your boss the way you speak to your best friend. You don't act the same around your mom as you do at the studio. That's not the issue. The issue is when people's identity is so liquid, so codependent, so addicted to approval, they're willing to throw anyone under the bus just to preserve their image. And let's call it what it is. This generation confuses nice with good, polite with pure, tolerant with trustworthy. But not every smile is clean. Not every hug is safe. And not every "I got you" is rooted in loyalty. You ever had a convo like this? You confront them after hearing something sideways. "Hey, I heard you were saying XYZ about me." And they go, "Oh no, that's not what I meant. You know how people twist things. I'd never do that." Then you ask, "Well, did you say it?" And suddenly it's deflection. "You're being sensitive. You're blowing this out of proportion. It wasn't even that deep." But it was that deep, because you trusted them, because you prayed with them, because you let them see the vulnerable version of you. And now, they're using fragments of your truth to score social points. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Being chosen will eventually require you to walk away from someone you once called family. Not out of pride, not out of bitterness, but because your peace started getting interrupted every time they entered the room. Because your discernment started throwing red flags like flares, and you didn't want to believe it. Because loyalty is your language. Because you prayed for them. Because they were there back then. But time reveals what comfort hides, and when God starts elevating you, He'll expose every unclean alliance you didn't have the strength to see before. Here's the hardest part. You will mourn them like a death, because the version of them you knew was never real. It was a performance, a projection, and now that the mask has slipped, you're left grieving someone who's still alive, but can't go where God is taking you. So what do you do with all that? You forgive them, you bless them, and then you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because at the end of the day, you don't need to be liked, you need to be aligned. And alignment will always cost popularity, always. So if you're being iced out, gossiped about, excluded, or misunderstood, that might just mean you're finally in position. The venom. You don't really see the danger until you're already in the middle of their web. By the time it all unravels, your name's been passed around more than a rumor at a high school lunch table. You're not even a person anymore. You're a story, and a twisted one at that. Let's be real. Character assassination is modern-day witchcraft. They use words like spells. They gather alliances. They rewrite timelines. You'll hear things like, "She always thought she was better than us. He just wants attention." They switched up once they got that job, that platform, that following. But what's really happening? They're threatened, not because you're perfect, but because you're clear. Because you stopped tolerating nonsense. Because you pulled back your energy. Because your boundaries exposed their lack of self-control. This is especially potent in smaller towns, where people know each other too well, but understand themselves not at all. Where the rumor mill is a full-time job, and perception is currency. It becomes a sport. Who can spin the best version of events? Who can get the most people to co-sign their bitterness? And there you are, minding your business, building in silence, healing, ascending, and they're throwing darts at a phantom version of you they created, just so they could feel better about their own stagnancy. The solution. Here's the truth, chosen one. Pawns play pawn games, but you're not a pawn, you're royalty. Don't let yourself get baited. Don't let your crown tilt just because some insecure spirit is trying to provoke a reaction. You will not win this war by clapping back. You win it by rising above, by becoming so focused, so disciplined, so purpose-driven. These aren't enemies. They're distractions in disguise. They don't know where they're going. That's why they're obsessed with your direction. Let them talk. Let them speculate. Let them watch you through fake pages and group chats. Because at the end of the day, their words don't touch what God is building in your life. You've been called, and with that calling comes the need to be disliked, not because you're mean, not because you're cold, but because truth has always made people uncomfortable. Jesus himself said in Luke 6:26, "Woe to you when everyone speaks well of you." Why? Because mass approval is the drug of the compromised, and the chosen were never meant to be mass approved. They were meant to be set apart. Closing word. To every chosen one hearing this right now, stay locked in. Let them whisper, let them assume, let them throw shade, because while they're talking, you're transforming. While they're spinning stories, you're building legacy. While they're gathering crowds, you're gathering clarity. And when the time comes, God will make sure they see what they tried to bury, publicly. So hold your peace, sharpen your sword, and let your silence speak louder than their slander. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be divinely respected by the few and feared by the many. Transmission complete. The throne's intact. Keep building the ark.